Siomra Beag.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Sure Look, Sure Listen, the podcast that takes a pop at culture. Sure look, sure listen.
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 Sure look, sure listen. Sure look, Ben, this week Loki has another new trailer. Rick and Morty Season 5 is still a thing that's coming out. You have managed to watch all of Castlevania Season 4 and Army of the Dead, both of which, Ben, I forgot to watch because I was too busy watching Mayor of Easttown.
Sure listen, Mick, even if you didn't see those, we're going to be taking a look at the Himbo, where it comes from, what it means, and what makes a Himbo a Himbo.
Well, Ben, what even is a Himbo?
That's what we're about to find out, Michael.
Here's the question, Ben, that I have for you.
Yes.
Have you learned anything new from the latest trailer for Loki?
I learned that it's a weird Fallout 4 style time variance authority.
It is very Fallout 4, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the weird southern lady on the intercom.
Unnecessary, Michael.
She's like, have a good day, y'all, and don't you vary into any times, you son of a bitch.
Otherwise, we'll vape you.
Yeah, but Ben, it does give it very clearly, I think for the first time, it clarifies one of the assumptions we've all had, that he's been basically pressed-ganged into fixing the things he's caused.
Yes, Michael, it's a shotgun partnership with Owen Wilson.
It's a shotgun wedding, Ben, and Owen Wilson's like, you better help us fix the time. Wow. And
You knocked up my timeline, and now you're going to marry it.
Benjamin.
Wow.
In the previous trailer as well, we saw that the Time Variance Authority report into three sort of space lizards.
Yeah, space lizards, no good, Michael.
So three all-powerful space lizard kind of creatures, Ben. Is this some sort of reference, Ben, to Marvel's The Living Tribunal?
It almost definitely is, Michael. I think you'll recall way back on a previous podcast that will not be mentioned now because we're different now. You and I spoke about the iconography at the very opening shot of one of the trailers looking awfully similar to One Living Tribunal.
So, Benjamin, are the three lizards going to actually turn out to be one lizard with three different heads pointing in different directions, like Janus, but with three?
More like a Hecate, goddess of witchcraft vibe.
Does she do that, Ben?
She's got three old faces, Michael.
Three old faces or one?
No,
old
three
face
old faces, as in the vernacular to say good old timey boys.
Right.
She has three faces generally in three phases, Michael. You've got your classic maiden, crone, and woman vibe going.
The third option, then.
Woman.
Maiden, crone, and the standard common or garden woman. Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying.
Wow. Well,
Wow.
misogyny is strong on this new podcast.
There's no
Benjamin.
misogyny in the word woman.
Benjamin, look,
Yeah, what?
listen. Sure, look, Ben. I'm still excited for it. I think it's going to be. It's looking increasingly Legion-esque and out there.
Yeah, I think this borrows heavily from Legion, Michael. If the latest trailer proved anything, it's that this is going to be a wacky, what am I supposed to do here kind of adventure. And look, there's a DB Cooper scene. He gets snatched by Asgard on the Rainbow Bridge in mid DB Cooper vibe. Do you know what I mean? It's going to be interesting, Michael. It's going to be interesting. Is it going to be worth watching? It's Tom Hiddleston. He's going to draw them in, Michael. He's going to draw them in.
Benjamin, are you happy that he doesn't have a shirt on?
I quite like it when Tom Hiddleston doesn't have a shirt on. I quite like it when Tom Hiddleston does have a shirt on. I just quite like Tom Hiddleston.
You're just a Tom Hiddleston enjoyer.
I'm a Hiddlestan.
Is that... Have you just made that up?
I think so, but I'm sure somebody else has beaten me to it before.
Damn it.
If not,
yeah,
copyright bloody Sure Look, Sure Listen 2021
or whatever year it is. Benjamin.
Yeah.
Sure, look, Benjamin, what else? Yeah, what was the other trailer? Richard and Mortimer.
Still happening.
Still happening. Ben, we have always comically, as a bit of a joke between ourselves, called it Richard and Mortimer because
we have.
Because we do that sometimes. We artificially lengthen names as a little joke that we have. But funnily enough, in this trailer, he's actually called Richard.
Yes, by Sexy Namor.
Yeah, by Sexy Namor, or as he's also known, Namor. Benjamin, isn't his name Ricardo?
I think it is, but I think the Richard joke is a direct nod to the Fantastic Four idea because Namor calls Reed Richards Richards.
Oh, of course, I hadn't.
So
thought
I
of
think
that.
it's. I think it's a shit joke. I think that's what they're going for.
All right, it's just a Commodore Garden shit joke.
It's just a shit joke. Look, I'm going to be honest, Michael.
Yes.
That show has become incredibly hit and miss for me.
Go on.
I think the internet was with me for season 4 there. The first half of season 4 was a huge letdown for a lot of Richard and Mortimer fans, and there was quite a complaint.
About the sexy dragons?
Yeah, so that was the mid-season finale of the last one, and it was a real low point for the show where everybody kind of said, boo, what is this? That was literally dick jokes for 20 minutes.
But Benjamin, weren't the Council of Ricks episodes and the multiple Mortar episodes, weren't they also in season 4, and everybody loved those?
That was season 3, Michael.
Was it?
That was season 3.
Ben, I'm going to need you to get out of here with that information. That is a bit of a surprise to me.
It is, isn't it? No, season 3 was the Council of Richards.
Oh, well then maybe season 4 was disappointing. Benjamin, what I thought was most interesting in this trailer was the use of the song Sabotage by the Beastie Boys. It has a weird history, that song.
Go on.
Well, I know, it's a Beastie Boys song, Ben, and the Beastie Boys, Ben, you're quite young, so you won't remember that the Beastie Boys were a popular group in the 80s and 90s.
Of beasts?
No, boys. They're
Oh.
boys. Yeah, 3 boys. 3 boys. Mike, Adam, and Mike. Or is it the other way around? Doesn't matter, Ben. This isn't a Beastie Boy fan cast, so there's no need to get into it. But famously, Ben...
We call it Bestie Boys.
Because they're into bestiality.
Ah, Michael.
No, we'll get cancelled. Benjamin, what was I saying?
I don't know.
Famously, Sabotage. Was it Sabotage? Or was it Intergalactic? It was Sabotage. Sabotage, Ben, was famously the song that was playing in young James T. Kirk's car that he stole.
Yes.
When he escaped from his father or something. That led on his path to becoming a rebellious Starfleet officer in one of the J.J. Abrams Star Treks. I think the first one, but possibly the second one.
No, it was the first one, Michael. You're bang on.
It wasn't the first one. And Benjamin, people said when that came out, ooh, that's a bit on the nose.
Is it now?
Isn't it a bit on the nose? Well, there was a famous... This is a ridiculous conversation, but there was a famous internet meme, Ben, many years ago, where James T. Kirk, or what's his name?
Yeah.
William T. Shatner.
William Thomas
Shatner had an argument about the pronunciation of the word sabotage.
Okay, go on.
And he insisted on pronouncing it sabotage? Sabotage? I think he says sabotage.
Sabotage, yeah, which would
Something
be the
like
incorrect way.
And then the big debate among Star Trek fans became, was this a little Easter egg for Star Trek fans who know that James T. Kirk says sabotage in a funny way? And is it a bit on the money as like a throwback song? Like, why did he pick that song in the future, 300 years from now, as a classical piece of music? It's always been a weird one. And it seems odd that the producers of Rick and Morty, who are really on the ball with pop culture references, would pick a song that is famously used in situations that are a bit on the nose. So I think the use of that song is actually the main joke of this trailer. Or, Ben, I'm completely misreading it, and someone who made the trailer has nothing to do with the show, and they just thought it's cool music.
Well, I mean, look, that's an Occam's razor situation where we could take the very simple thing, Michael, but in fairness to Richard and Mortimer, they very rarely take the simple option. To give them credit where credit's due. If they can convolute something, they'll bloody do it, and they'll give it some layers and some silliness, and they'll do that kind of thing. One of the things that stuck out to me, Michael, that probably lends itself to your reading, is the fact that they almost make it seem as though there'll be a season-long storyline where someone's out to kill us.
Yeah.
And they say someone's always out to kill us. I think that might be the use of that. I think that Beastie Boys song is used for particularly action-packed movie trailers. And movie moments.
Yeah.
And I think, and I do think you're on the money here, I think that they're intentionally poking fun at themselves and making people think that they might be trying to go for a full arc, and they're not at all.
It's a humorous fake out.
I think it's going to be a weird kind of anthology-style snippet series again.
Benjamin, I will watch every episode of it. I won't be upset if it's good or bad because I'm not that invested in it.
Yes, no, neither of us are at this point, Michael. I think the world has probably lost
The world's
its
moved
obsession
on, Richard.
with Rick and Morty. Yeah, yeah.
Benjamin,
Go on.
speaking of moving on from obsessions with animated series, what's going on in Castlevania?
So, Michael, we got the final season, or what seems to be the final season of Netflix Castlevania series, written by one Warren Ellis.
Oh, I know him.
And the only reason I make that very, very clear, Michael, is that it's made very clear in the title sequence where it says Castlevania by Warren Ellis.
Go on.
Which I think is very interesting because it's not his at all. But anyway,
Go on.
Anyway, this saw the culmination of a bunch of different arcs that we've been following since season 1, Michael. Spoilers for the Castlevania series if you haven't watched any of it yet. I think the first season came out 4 years ago, so
I think so, Ben. I made it through an episode and a half, I think.
Yeah, that would have been it for you. So I was very intrigued by it, Michael, because I once had the Castlevania Harmony of Dissonance. Is that what it was called?
On the PSP.
I had it on the bloody Game Boy Advanced SP.
Yeah, I think that's Harmony of Dissonance.
And I really enjoyed that game, Michael. I thought it was a big, weird gothic world, and you could play as Alucard, and you could kind of run around. So I was quite intrigued by this. But, Michael, we've finally seen full culmination here. Dracula is eliminated in season 1, and the world, the rest of that series follows the kind of wonderful logic of nature abhors a vacuum.
Oh.
And what we encounter then in the following seasons is many, many different malevolent forces rushing to fill that vacuum.
Oh.
And it follows our key cast of characters. You have Trevor Belmont. You have Cypher, whose name escapes me. Her name is Cypher something, and the second name escapes me. You have Alucard, son of Dracula. And then we're introduced to some other interesting characters. We have 2 Forge Masters, Hector and Isaac. And Forge Masters are people who can bring demons from hell and imbue them into dead corpses and reanimate them. And they then serve their will. It's a really clever way, Michael, to explain the sheer eclectic nature of the monsters in Castlevania. Because sometimes when you're playing that game, Michael, you'll be running around and you'll throw your whip at a ghoul. You'll give it an L lash. And other times it's a Sphinx, Michael. You'll give a Sphinx an L lash.
A Medusa.
A bloody Nordic Revenant, something like that, Michael. And you might find yourself scratching your head and saying, why is all of world mythology and dead things in here in this castle? And that's why. That eclecticism are reanimated souls from hell.
Benjamin.
Yes.
If Dracula named his son Alucard because it's Dracula backwards, that means when you have a son, you'll have to call it Neb.
Neb. Bringer of destruction. Saver of worlds.
Neb.
The boy Neb. I think that could work. I think that could work quite well. He'd hate me, but sure, look.
That's why Alucard hates Dracula. He's like, Dad, come on. Could have called me anything. Could have called me Sue, Philip, David Johnston.
I like that for some reason you have invoked the energy of Paul Rudd there and done an excellent impression, because I would pay an awful lot of money to watch a coming-of-age story starring Paul Rudd as Alucard, just being like, Dad! Oh.
Dad! Oh, come on, Dad! What'd you call me Alucard for?
I would pay a great deal of money to see that with J.K. Simmons as Dracula.
Drain that blood faster, boy!
I would pay
You're an embarrassment to the Dracula bloodline, boy!
I would love that. Anyway, this is the final season when we start to see the culmination of all different things come together, Michael. It's a very different style to the previous couple of seasons. They seem to have put a bit more money into their anime budget. So it's a little bit more fluid. There's a lot more anime-influenced vignettes. And it was very enjoyable. It's a good wrap-up, Michael. I take it to be the final season by the sheer nature of how it ended. The previous 3 seasons ended on a serious cliffhanger, and this one seems to wrap everything up in a tight little bow.
Oh, very good. A tight little bow.
Again, the voice acting, Michael, is really what sets the show apart. They just got a great cast of British actors to give the dig out and to really put some effort into it. And it was great. It was a great little wrap-up, Michael. I enjoyed it.
Very good, Benjamin. Benjamin.
Yeah.
Speaking, as we were, about nature abhorring a vacuum.
Yeah.
There hasn't been a Zack Snyder film in a couple of weeks.
Oh, yes, there has.
No, Ben, what I'm saying is that the vacuum has been filled.
It's been filled by a 2.5 hour lump of lead. Michael.
Oh, here we go. All right. This should be good. Now, Benjamin.
Strap in.
I've forgotten to watch it because I didn't think it was out yet.
Yeah.
It's not, I mean, that's not usually how it works around here. Although this is the first episode of the new podcast, Sure Look, Sure Listen, taking
Perhaps
pop
we've
culture.
inverted our own tropes.
Exactly, Ben. But I have not noticed that this has come out. I thought this was coming out in the cinemas, Ben, like Fast and Furious 9.
No.
Benjamin,
Yes.
Fast and Furious 9 is out in the cinemas.
Now, as we speak,
Yeah, we don't have them because we don't have cinemas now. But it's
they're all
actually
gone
out.
now.
It's made 109 million already.
Because it's actually out in the cinema. Is that all?
Yeah.
That's all it takes these days, Michael.
Yeah, not here, though. There's no cinemas here anymore.
There's no cinemas here anymore. Michael, you'll recall over the last couple of weeks we've been giving Netflix an old bash for their mediocrity.
Yes, no good, no use.
And it would seem that they're committed to this path of mediocrity because what we got this week is Army of the Dead from Zack Snyder.
Your favourite director and mine, Zacharin Snyder.
Yeah, who has really taken all his tropes and just crammed them back into another movie. Except it's this time it's a classic heist movie with zombies, Michael.
Oh, that sounds interesting. I like a heist movie.
It should be interesting. That's the worst part about this, Michael, is it should be interesting. Now, I'm going to do full spoilers, Michael.
Oh,
Okay? Because you wouldn't kid glove me for this, right?
I wouldn't.
So, in this world, we thought, a couple of weeks ago, we debated whether or not money would still be useful in a zombie apocalypse.
Yes,
But we fundamentally misunderstood this film, Michael.
go on.
In this film, it's just Las Vegas that has been segmented away
Oh.
from the rest of the world,
So
right?
the rest of the world is fine. It doesn't have zombies.
The rest of the world is fine. There are no zombies in the rest of the world. Las Vegas has fallen victim to zombies, and it's then been quarantined, Michael.
Oh.
Yeah. So what the first part of this film is, Michael, is a very thinly veiled critique of Border Patrol and ICE agents.
Oh, well, I mean, they probably deserve a bit of a critique, Ben.
They do, but it's a shit one. And what happens in this, Michael, is that the displaced survivors of
Mexico.
Las Vegas
Yes.
are kept in a shanty town
Oh.
around the border, a refugee camp around the border of Las Vegas, because people can't be sure they haven't been infected.
Right.
So there's a little bit of I'd call it a watered down debate on, how we treat these people.
Okay.
So there's a little bit of a coronavirus angle to it as well, because, the survivors have to get their temperatures checked all the time.
Oh.
And there's a lot of judgment if you're missing a couple of, Fahrenheit here or there.
Very on point.
Very on point. There's a ludicrously obnoxious portrayal of a camp guard who's, a predator, and he's taking advantage of women in vulnerable situations and things like that. And that's how the setup is. Dave Bautista, as it turns out, was part of a kind of crew that would hunt for survivors within Las Vegas
Oh, a rescue crew.
before it was completely walled off.
Mm.
And so, in classic Zack Snyder style, Michael, the first 10 minutes of that film is a slow motion montage of the world descending into chaos and slow motion things, explosions, guns, Dave Bautista doing a few action moves, little vignettes. Think Watchmen, and you have it.
Okay,
That's exactly what you
I'm
get
going
to
to think
see.
about Watchmen for a while then.
Now, then what happens is, unfortunately, we find out that Dave Bautista's wife became infected,
Oh, no.
and he had to murder her.
No, murder is probably the wrong word.
Had to put her down.
Ugh.
Those are his words,
That's
not
connotations.
mine. Those are his words, not mine.
Well, not-
And that is one instance of fridging, Michael, where that acts as a primary motivator for Dave Bautista and his daughter.
Okay.
So fridging number one. Then
Yes. What happened?
Mr. Tanaka,
Oh,
who's a shady dick.
he sounds Japanese.
Okay. He wants to hire the lads to get 200 million out of a vault. Okay. And so
Yes.
he gets his team together, and there's a lot of you son of a bitch, I'm in.
Oh, excellent.
Okay. So what there is in that is there's a lady mechanic who's ballsy and gutsy and will stay by Dave Bautista's side no matter what happens.
Is that Tig Notaro?
No, Tig Notaro is the escape pilot.
Okay.
Okay, there's Tig Notaro, escape pilot extraordinary.
Benjamin.
Yes.
It's pronounced extraordinaire. Benjamin,
Thanks.
is it noticeable that Tig Notaro was never on set with the rest of the cast?
Yes,
It
because
is.
her entire film is her on the roof trying to get the broken helicopter to work.
Oh, right. So she's essentially having a separate film.
She is essentially having a separate film.
Okay, right. That makes sense.
Yeah. So we then have very, very tough black guy
Oh,
with Saw,
good. Good to have tropes in there.
who's had enough of this shit.
Oh, very good, yeah. Just 2 days away from retirement.
He's just 2 days away from retirement. We then have YouTuber/streamer who for some reason is hired because he gets a lot of hits on YouTube when he
That's
kills zombies.
Ridiculous. That's ridiculous, man.
Ridiculous.
Is it Jake Paul?
It's Jake Paul.
Is it Logan Paul?
It's no Jake Paul because
Is
Aaron
Paul?
It's hard to say. He is for some reason allowed to bring along 2 people
Oh,
on a Black Ops mission for no other reason than he says I vouch for them.
all right.
That's it. And so they get to come along.
That sounds like it could go wrong, Ben.
It does. And then there's the young German eccentric lockpicker
Oh, very good.
who's actually very afraid of violence and not really good in those situations.
And is he played by Topher Grace?
Or the German equivalent, Michael.
Oh, Topher Grace.
Yeah, you pretty much nailed the impression.
Yeah. Oh
and
my
this is all
God.
topped off by Tanaka's shady right-hand man,
Oh.
who is brought along under the guise of being an expert on the casino that they need to rob.
Oh,
right?
very good, yeah.
Now, that's fine. Okay?
Benjamin, I'm concerned.
Go on.
You don't seem to have mentioned a sexy lady character.
Ah! Well, Michael, here it comes.
Oh, thank God.
There are 2 sexy lady characters. There's a coyote. There's a French woman with blonde hair who runs people in and out of the quarantined Las Vegas.
Very good.
Why? Nobody knows why people would want to go back in. It's not explained.
Money, maybe.
Money, maybe.
They just love
Maybe.
craps.
Now, they just have to get their fix. So, Michael, there are 2 types of zombies in this film. There's what they call shamblers, and that's your classic Romero zombie. You know, shuffling along, dangerous in large numbers, piece of piss if you're in any way capable.
Common or garden zombie.
Common or garden zombie. And then, Michael, we have the alpha zombie.
Oh.
Which are Will Smith legend versions.
Right.
I Am Legend versions. They have their own society. They have their own loves. You've seen it in the trailers. There's the weird showgirl zombie and the big butch zombie.
Leave them
and
alone.
they're in love.
Leave them to their own
And
business.
They're starting their own society, Michael. Anyway, the lads have to go in, get the 200 million, but oh no, the government wants to nuke Las Vegas and the timeline has been moved up. So there's time pressure, there's a whole shenanigans, and it's things like that. Now, this is major spoilers for the film, because
Okay,
I've
here
been
we
very light so far. The central conceit of this, Michael, is that the $200 doesn't matter at all.
No, it's only $200.
200 million. Doesn't matter at all to Mr. Tanaka. What he wants is the head of an alpha zombie so they can experiment on it and turn it into a weapon.
Oh, because he works for the Umbrella Corporation.
Exactly, Mr. Tanaka. But the great flaw of this film is, Michael, they hire this crew not to capture a zombie, but to break into the vault.
Right, because that's where the
Now,
alpha zombie is.
He and the coyote, on the outside of this, go and get the zombie head. Right?
Oh.
So the right-hand man, the shady right-hand man, and the coyote capture the showgirl zombie and cut her head off.
Oh, no.
That's it. He has then achieved his goal.
So were the bank vault people just a distraction then?
The bank vault people are supposed to be a distraction, Michael, but they're a very competent Black Ops team that doesn't actually get noticed until Shady Dickhead decides to expose them. So the entire threat of this plot, Michael, is I need a zombie. These are going to be my distraction crew. But why do we need those if we can just hire the coyote, go in, get the head, and come out?
Don't know, Ben.
You don't need a film, Michael, and that's the point. More than that,
But slow motion shots of zombies, Ben.
more than that, no zombie film has ever needed to be 2.5 hours long.
I think Dawn of the Dead is 2.5 hours long, isn't it?
And it's still shit.
Oh my God, how very dare you.
Michael,
Yes.
this is 2.5 hours of the slowest moving film I have ever watched.
And you
It
have
never
watched,
grabbed
Ben,
me.
You have watched Boy. Is that what it's called?
Boyhood.
Boyhood. Yeah, you've watched that.
Michael, this film is slow as hell. It's very hard to get invested in the characters. And when things do happen to the characters at the end, you don't care.
No, not Tig Notaro.
There's a very interesting turn in the last 30 minutes of this film where it finally picks up. And what Zack Snyder decides to do, Michael, is a classic zombie film kind of thing. The characters that we've spent our times getting invested in die.
Yeah,
Right?
classic,
It's a classic picked off one by one. But that kicks off with the most heinous example of fridging I have ever seen. So
All
you
right.
remember the plucky mechanic that we spoke about at the start of this review, Michael?
Yes.
The plucky mechanic just has a heart-to-heart with Dave Bautista.
Mm-hmm.
Talks about building a life together.
Yeah.
Talks about getting out of this and how much they care for each other.
Oh, she's a lady.
Okay. She's a lady.
Okay.
She's a lady mechanic.
Okay.
And he
A
talks
mechanic
to...
Ben, as you would call her.
No, you wouldn't. So Dave Bautista has this. They have this heart-to-heart. Then the doors open to the elevator and her neck is snapped unceremoniously.
Oh.
Dave Bautista has to watch her head get turned full 180
Oh, very
on her
good.
body
Yeah.
and her drop to the floor.
Oh, no.
He then sparks into a rage and murders a bunch of zombies with his bare hands.
Oh.
It
Wait.
is one of the most...
He has
Go
bare
ahead.
hands.
He has bare hands.
He's some
yes.
sort of
In
mutant.
the future, everyone has bare hands. So, Michael, it's one of the most heinous examples of fridging that I have ever seen. It is actually incredibly cruel and mean as a twist, and it almost made me turn the film off.
Oh, good.
You spoke a little bit a couple of weeks ago about chaos walking and how the attempted killing of a dog, or the killing
they
of a
killed
dog,
the dog, yeah.
made you want to switch that film off.
No, it didn't
I
make
came
me.
that close.
I did turn it off. I
Yeah.
refused to watch the ending.
This film was remarkably cruel in its last 30 minutes. And it has one of the least twists of all time in the last couple of minutes.
Don't spoil that, Ben. I'm going to watch it tonight.
No, it's I'm sure it's somebody's cup of tea, Michael. I thought it was a terrible film. I thought it was paced awfully. I think there are serious plot holes and jumps in logic. But the central thing that annoyed me, Michael, is the entire heist angle is pointless. You could nip in with a crew of 4 people,
And just
capture
get
your
the
zombie, behead the zombie, and then leave.
Sure, look, Ben, not every Zack Snyder film can be a winner.
In my experience, Michael, very few Zack Snyder films have been winners.
I like Watchmen, Ben. I like 300. Benjamin,
Yeah.
have you heard the rumor that there's a director's cut of look at all these pretty ladies going around?
Look at all these chickens. Sucker Punch, Michael.
Sucker
I think,
Punch is what
you're
it's
talking
called. Yeah. There's a Zack Snyder cut of that going around, apparently.
about. I'm all right, thanks.
He'd like you to see it, Ben. He'd
The
like
first one.
He'd like Warner Brothers to spend 70 million on it, and then for you to see it personally. You.
I don't think, Michael, this has any space in a post Me Too society. I don't think that weird, exploitative, over the top film that is quite frankly predatory in several places
Is it?
has any place in our society. The main character is a lolly character. She's called Baby Girl, and
Baby
her
doll.
specific sexiness it's even worse if it's Baby Doll, Michael, I'll be honest. Her specific sexiness is because men leer at her because of her youthful, innocent persona.
Gross, Ben. You're
It's
gross.
a gross fucking film. It's not me. It's not me.
Well,
I didn't make it.
I
One
thought-
Zacharin Schneider did.
I thought you were director Zack Snyder.
No.
What have I
I'm
been
not.
interviewing you for the last half hour then about this goddamn film?
For
Sure,
the
look,
last
Ben,
4 years.
let's bloody move on then.
You were there scratching your head, wondering why a podcast with Zack Schneider wasn't doing better.
Yeah. I wasn't really, to be honest.
Got him. Michael.
Yes.
Michael. There is a phenomenon that is currently taking place in the world, and arguably Dave Bautista's character in this film could be put up there. There is the rise of the himbo in pop culture, Michael, and we said it at the top of the episode today. We'll be taking a look at that because it's a fascinating resurgence of a very, very bizarre character trope.
Oh, so Ben, you love a trope. Ben, why don't you tell all the new listeners, just apropos of nothing, why don't you tell all the new listeners to the new podcast, Sure Look, Sure Listen, Taking a Pop Culture? Yeah. Benjamin, why don't you tell them what a trope is very quickly?
A trope is a common characteristic or trait that occurs over and over in different genres of fiction, Michael.
Tell us some famous examples.
Chosen One trope, Michael, is a very famous example of the trope. The femme fatale would be a very famous trope. Yeah. The Born Sexy Yesterday trope, Michael.
What's that?
Is a very powerful character who has only been rebirthed. The perfect example of that would be Mila Jovovich in The Fifth Element. Lilu, exactly. Michael, there's all kinds of tropes, but this one is the himbo, and the himbo has made a resurgence, Michael. And unlike many of the tropes I just mentioned, this one doesn't piss people off much. In fact, it's become something of a cultural sensation.
Oh, good. So not all tropes are negative, then, is what you're saying.
No, heavens no, Michael. Some are excellent. Some are inversions of common tropes that you found and are the antidote to some very toxic cultural narratives that people may have been imbibing passively.
Of course, Ben, all society and culture is secular. Secular? It comes in cycles. Cyclical, that's the word.
Cyclical.
It's cyclical, Ben. And, you know, someone might be doing a podcast in 30 years and going back and looking at the toxic rise of the himbo.
Well, we'll get to that at the end, Michael, because there is a toxic underbelly to the himbo that we'll probably have a look at. But Michael, let's start off by getting you to go on.
Like the poison dart frog.
Like the poison dart frog with its poison underbelly.
Yeah, it's toxic underbelly.
Very good. Yeah. So, Michael, Ben, what I want you to do is close your eyes.
Ben, sorry to interrupt again.
Yeah.
Poison dart frogs, it's their backs that are toxic. I know.
It's the poison overback of the himbo.
For the sake of the joke, it was worth it, but I can't let that stand because we're going to get emails.
It's your joke. I don't mind if you want to retract mid-sentence.
I don't mind undermining my own jokes for scientific accuracy, Ben.
Underbellying your own jokes for scientific accuracy, Michael. Anyway, close your eyes before I snap at you.
All right, my eyes are closed.
Right, cast your mind back to 2006, 2007.
Okay.
And see what this conjures in your mind. All right.
Oh, that's Matthew McConaughey.
All right, I'm going to get my bongos.
It's Matthew McConaughey from the film Shipwrecked in the Desert.
It's bloody, I can't remember what that's called. Sahara,
that's the one, yeah.
I'm in Sahara. All right. What's that, Sarah Jessica Parker? You going to get my life together?
Oh, no.
Move out of my parents' home?
Oh, God.
Let me play the bongos.
Bird's nest? I'm in the bird's nest? Get out of the nest, you little prick? Is that what that was called?
Get out of the nest, you little prick.
Failure to launch.
Is what that was called. So he is kind of an early trendsetter of the mid-2000s himbo, Michael. Big, handsome man.
Yeah. Not
a lot going on in the common sense department.
Dumb as a brick.
But wholesome to fuck.
Right.
Go
on.
And that's fundamentally, Michael, what the himbo is. The himbo, of course, is a gendered kind of tinkering with the famous term bimbo.
Right.
And really, Michael, one of the fascinating things that I found while I was researching this particular trope is, for those that don't know what a bimbo is, first of all, what rock have you been living on?
What rock or planet have you been living on? Is it a different planet? Tell us.
But a bimbo tell us now.
Tell us now. We want to make contact.
A bimbo in modern parlance, Michael, is a ditzy, super attractive woman who is very innocent, very naive, and very easily taken advantage of. The kind of go-to one in pop culture lexicons is Marilyn Monroe in anything.
Yeah.
So that phrase, believe it or not, Michael, was actually originally introduced for men.
Bimbo?
A bimbo was a big meathead. A good-looking meathead with nothing going on upstairs.
Go on.
And then over time, Michael, it was transferred to specifically apply to women. So it's an interesting inversion of that in the original place. But Himbo has come back, Michael, to kind of tackle that. And a Himbo is usually a big muscular man who's not the brightest tool in the box.
Right, that's not that expression, but go on.
Brightest tool in the sharpest tool in the shed. There we go. I got it eventually. Is it the brightest bulb?
No, he's just not the brightest.
Just not the brightest.
Doesn't matter.
He's not the brightest karaoke singer at the Japanese bar.
There's a certain irony in this conversation, I have to say.
Well, we'll get into that in a few minutes, Michael. But anyway, the Himbo, Michael, big, dumb, handsome, but very, very sweet.
Yes, that's
very,
the key,
very sweet,
isn't it? That's the key, because
that's the core.
There have been hundreds, there's been millions of characters who are big, dumb, handsome dicks.
Yes, there's plenty of those. Army Hammer.
Real life example, Armand Hammer, the noted cannibal Armand Hammer. Benjamin, but you know, any kind of high school movie has a big, dumb, handsome bully character.
Yeah.
And they're big and they're dumb, but they don't. Yeah. It's all about Venn diagrams, isn't it, Ben?
It is, Michael.
Now, I know that on screen it looks like I'm doing the international symbol for boobies, but I'm doing the international symbol for Venn diagrams. It's all about
very specifically.
It's all about Venn diagrams, Ben, and they have to match the. I love a Venn diagram-based joke, Ben. Most of my favorite jokes are based around Venn diagrams.
That doesn't shock me.
But Ben, they have to be big and dumb and nice.
And nice.
No, sorry. Big, yeah. Or handsome. Big, handsome, muscular, whatever. Dumb and nice.
Correct. So this is the Himbo. So some of the ones
because
off the top of the head. Yeah, go on.
If they're just handsome and nice, then they're not a Himbo. They have to be dumb.
They have to be dumb.
But if they're just big and dumb, but they're not handsome, then they're that guy who kills the mice of Mice and Men.
Yes, Gus. I say Gus.
Sonny.
I can't remember. Anyway, Michael, one of the key ones that has led the charge in this kind of renaissance of the Himbo is Thor in Thor Ragnarok.
Yes. The funny thing about Thor, Ben, is
go on.
First of all, it's Chris Hemsworth. It's Chris Hemsworth's fault. This whole thing is Chris Hemsworth's fault.
Yes.
But Thor undergoes a bit of himboization.
Yes, because he wasn't that before.
He was a bit daft in Thor 1.
But he wasn't sweet.
No, he was a bit mean.
He was kind of a dick.
He was a bit of a dick, Ben. Like, he's big and muscular and handsome, obviously, although he has ridiculous eyebrows.
They're blonde.
Yeah, I mean, they really take his handsomeness down a notch or two in that film because of that awful hair and eyebrow job.
Yeah.
But, Ben, he's big and dumb and handsome, but he's not that nice, so I don't think he qualifies.
No, he doesn't, Michael. He doesn't really. It's just not how it works. But then, in Thor Ragnarok, we get... Go on. Oh.
In Thor the Dark World...
Oh, no.
He's big and handsome, and he's nice, but he's not dumb.
Oh, is he very intelligent in Thor the Dark World?
He's not necessarily very intelligent, but he's not his lack of understanding of things isn't the butt of jokes in the way... it is in Thor 1, where he doesn't understand Earth. He's like, I like this drink, and smashes the coffee and runs into things and gets electrocuted and bunks his face off the glass and all that sort of stuff. But in Thor 2, he's big and handsome and muscular, and he's sorted out his eyebrows and hair a bit. And
a bit.
But he's also nice. He's nice to Jane. The whole thing is about being nice to Jane the whole time. But he's not dumb. Nothing really happens to him that's dumb. He gets tricked by Loki, but he gets tricked by Loki in a very cunning plan, not a like, die, I'm Thor kind of way.
Yeah. So then, Michael, what Taika Waititi does is he takes a big old dose of Labrador energy and just shoves it into Thor.
Yeah.
And what we get is a big fluffy boy in Thor Ragnarok.
He's a big fluffy boy, Ben.
He's a big fluffy boy. He's always a beat behind everybody else.
Yeah.
And he's always forced to be on the back foot.
Yeah.
And use his strength or use his power to get out of the situation that his misunderstanding has put him in.
Yeah.
And one of the great ways that that's established is that Tom Hiddleston is a snarky boy for that entire film.
Yeah,
and his Loki gets his energy turned up to 90 as well. There is a huge amount of Loki wincing at his brother's naivete, where he's like, oh, God.
What's he doing? Look at this dumbass.
Yeah, and there's a lot of that involved in it, and it's a key example of that. Another huge example, Michael, in common pop culture is Kronk from The Emperor's New Groove.
Benjamin, I've never seen it or heard of it.
Oh, that's a shame. Kronk is Yzma's right-hand man in The Emperor's New Groove, and it's the poison for Cusco.
Benjamin.
The Cusco poison. That guy.
You have explained that character to me by referencing another character that I have no idea who they are.
Okay, very good. In the animated Disney movie The Emperor's New Groove,
yes,
there is an Incan empire,
yes,
headed up by David Spade,
right,
in the form of Cusco, who's the emperor of this particular empire.
Good bit of
He's a bit of a dope
there, Ben.
Yeah, it's not a not a difficult jump in understanding there. He's a bit of a dope.
Yeah.
And he wants to be ousted out of power by the evil advisor, a bit of a Jafar character, but in female form this time, Yzma.
Oh.
And Yzma is a spindly old lady. She's a bit like if Cruella de Vil and Jafar had a baby. And before that image traumatizes you for life, they have she has a right-hand man in Kronk. And Kronk is a big, meaty, handsome man who's very wholesome, but a bit of a dope. And that's why he's a villain.
Right, go on.
He's just a villain by the fact that he trusts Yzma, and he shouldn't.
Right.
Okay? He's become quite a popular one in the internet. But this idea of the Himbo, Michael, is nothing new. This term, Himbo, was introduced in the 1980s by a writer for the Washington Post. And she used it to talk about big, meaty characters in action films. The likes of your Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Oh.
Or your Sylvester Stallone.
You could argue then, Ben, that the definition has somewhat changed or shifted.
Yeah, absolutely. So the initial definition was a big, meaty man.
Yeah.
Whose bust size rivaled in models. And that's a direct reference from her article.
Mm-hmm.
And she talks about how they're pretty much not equipped for the modern world, but they excel in one area of skill, and that's what makes them useful.
Yeah, okay, so, I can see it.
If you take a look at Rocky, he's pretty much, and you'll excuse the pun here, but he's a working class punching bag for society.
Yes.
Except for the fact that when you put him in a ring, there's not a fucking soul alive who can take him.
Well, except Apollo Creed.
Shush. Shush.
And,
shush.
I think Ivan Drago beats him as well. No, he doesn't. Ivan never beats him.
Shush.
But, I mean, he loses in Rocky, Ben.
Shush.
I don't want to spoil it for you.
Shush. The whole point is he excels in a certain area and he does very well. Arnold Schwarzenegger is dumb as a bag of rocks and quite often plays that character. You're looking at Twins.
Yeah.
You're looking at Kindergarten Cop. You're looking at these kinds of characters where they're just fish out of water scenarios and things like that. Now, those are examples of what we would call himbos designed for men.
Ah. Because, I mean, the argument you could make is that neither of them are very good looking.
You could make that argument, but they are very muscular, Michael.
Yeah, they're big and muscular, but I mean, ladies most certainly don't have posters, or in the 80s, ladies didn't have posters of Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone on their wall.
Correct.
Benjamin.
It's very much a male fantasy that no matter how ill-adept they are at certain parts of society, as long as they have a core skill or can be useful, that they are good and they are masculine and they are men.
Benjamin. I visited a friend recently. I won't say who it was or give any further context. But I visited a friend recently and I went to use a bathroom. And it was a male-only house. And when I went into the bathroom, I was very surprised and put off that when I closed the door and sat down for a quick poo, there was, staring back at me, an almost nude Arnold Schwarzenegger flexing. Like, this is off-putting.
So that's a himbo very much for men.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
If you're looking for the cinematic antidote to that, a himbo for women, look no further than Brendan Fraser.
Oh, from the 80s and 90s.
George of the Jungle, The Mummy, Airheads, any of those features a big, sweet, dumb as a rock, handsome to fuck man.
Was was California Man his first effort, or what did they call that in America? Encino Man.
It's entirely possible that it was, but there's a key scene where you can point to Brendan Fraser's elevation to himboism.
Go on.
And that's the scene in which Rachel Weisz's character in The Mummy is drunk. Evie. And she's going to kiss Rick O'Connell.
Yeah.
And rather than take advantage of that moment, Rick O'Connell simply puts her to bed and calls it a night.
Ah.
And that is the moment where he reaches the trifecta of not the smartest man in the room, very physically capable, but also heart of bloody gold.
Mm.
And that's the thing. Now, when we look at Himbo's design for women, Michael, it opens up the range an awful lot more.
Yeah, well, they usually have their shirt on.
One of the key Himbos that has been elevated to godlike status in pop culturedom is Joey from Friends.
All right, go on.
And Joey from Friends is a perfect antidote for toxic masculinity. And this is the recent argument for why the Himbo has had a resurgence in modern post-Me Too society.
Is Joey from Friends not a bit casual with women?
No, we're going to break it down now.
All right,
Wait
let's
till
break
you
it
see,
down.
because there's
All
a
right.
character evolution in Friends. So
Okay.
what happens is Friends is really a wonderful, wonderful examination of toxic masculinity. And it comes in two distinct forms. Ross Geller is one of the worst characters of all time.
He's the worst.
He's manipulative.
Yeah.
He's slimy.
Yeah, he's the worst.
He's gaslighty.
Yeah.
He's not a great person.
But, Ben,
Yes.
they were on a break.
No, they weren't.
They were.
Anyway.
They were 100% on a break.
Anyway. Joey has his chance at a relationship with Rachel.
Yeah, no
And
good.
through the course of that relationship, he is nothing but devoted and accepting of everything that Rachel is.
Oh, gross.
Jesus Christ, Michael. It's 2021, man. Come on.
Yeah.
Anyway, he's
But
nothing
hold on
but
a second.
accepting.
No, I do have a bit of a point there.
Go on.
But I'm okay. He's devoted and accepting of everything that Rachel is. Rachel is also not very nice.
No, she's not. But that's not the point, because
All
it's
right.
a himbo designed for women.
All right, okay.
The point of a himbo is not to critique a woman's actions or to underline a particularly male trait. It is a fantasy for what could be considered a big, handsome, non-threatening man.
Mm. He's not
And
that
in
big.
that way, it takes different forms, because it can just be a handsome, non-threatening man.
Right.
Do you understand? So Joey ends up showing unconditional love, whereas Ross's love is exceptionally conditional, if not borderline manipulated throughout the entire series.
Well, Ross is a prick, though.
Ross is a prick, but he wasn't written as a prick, Michael. It just happens that with the hindsight of the 1990s, we all look at Ross and go, Jesus Christ, what a fucking prick.
I don't know if that's true, Ben, because I actually watched Friends in the 90s and everyone thought Ross
go
was
on.
a prick.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
then I'm glad to see that the 90s was not the wasteland that I thought it was.
I don't think anyone was going, oh man, I'm going to model myself on Ross and his horrible trousers and his deep
Good.
mistrust and fear of women.
Good.
No, everyone in the 90s, everyone wanted to be Joey.
Good. Well, then the himbo had its moment then as well. So nobody. The way we could look at that as well, Michael, is that Chandler would probably be the opposite of that. He's a very intelligent, less good-looking man, but his relentless sarcasm and cynicism is quite draining. And the thing that makes the himbo again so appealing is that relentless optimism for what comes next.
Mm.
The himbo is very rarely worn down by continuous failure or anything like that, and usually picks themselves up and dusts themselves off and keeps going. Those traits have kind of transferred themselves into a breaking of what we consider traditional masculinity, and one of the people that gets pointed out a lot for that is Jason Momoa.
Yeah.
Jason Momoa is a big, handsome, scary man.
Yeah.
But he wears pink tuxedos on the red carpet with matching scrunchies.
Yeah, he wasn't great in Game of Thrones, though, was he?
He wasn't great in Game of Thrones,
No,
but
not really.
what we're talking about now is the man.
You're actually just talking about the actual man, Jason Momoa, not a character that he plays.
But remember that the himbo is a fantasy, Michael.
Right.
It's not. It's a trope, but it's a fantasy.
Because he could well be a prick in real life.
Because he could well be a prick in real life. We'll never know.
Yeah.
Another example of that being undermined is Andy from Parks and Recreation. And Chris Pratt is apparently a bit of a prick in real life.
Is he, though?
Well, we don't know, Michael, because we don't get to see past the bloody door.
Well, but it's reported that way. I mean, I think Chris Pratt's biggest mistake is being a conservative and being religious.
Yes.
And
I think
generally, people who are analysing, like, has there ever been an accusation that Chris Pratt's not nice to women?
Nope.
I don't know if there has or not, but generally the people who are analysing tropes, Ben, your type of people, they would generally be on the opposite side of the political spectrum from conservative religious people.
Fair.
And as am I, Ben, as you well know, I'm very much not a religious person. I would say I'm anti-religious, in fact. But it is interesting that you would say that. It's also interesting that you've used the term toxic masculinity. Are we accepting that that's a thing that exists now?
I have always accepted that toxic masculinity is a thing that exists. I think it's a broadly bandied about term without enough investigation. I would class it as traditional standards of masculinity that end up causing long-term damage to the mental health of young men through strict, almost religious adherence to what we consider to be masculine, which may perhaps be outdated standards in the modern era.
And how does that apply to the character of Ross Geller?
Ross Geller would fall into a very different type of toxic masculinity, whereupon, well, not a very different. Okay, that's a good question. Hang on, I'm gonna need to think about that.
All right, because I just think Ross Geller is a prick. I don't understand how Ross Geller is an example of toxic masculinity. He's just an example of a character who was written to be. They were aiming for he's unpleasant in a funny way, and most of the time where they landed was he's unpleasant.
Yeah, because the funny never really carried well enough.
A lot of the time, I can't believe this has become a Friends fancast, but a lot of the time, I felt, especially with Ross, we were laughing at Ross.
He's the punchline.
Yeah, you're laughing at Ross. You're often laughing with Chandler, I guess.
Yes.
But I mean, all of the Friends characters are often the punchline. More often the men than the women, though, I would say.
I think, yeah, okay, that's fair. I think where you could possibly draw a parallel between Ross Geller and toxic masculinity is that belittling mansplaining thing that goes around. Now, that's a whole other term that has a lot of bandying about, and, you know, I don't think we have enough time on a single podcast to get into that.
Benjamin.
Yes.
To go back though to the shining example of the himboization of Thor.
Yeah.
What you've done earlier, you've credited that to Taika Waititi. I actually don't think it was Taika Waititi that much, because I think a lot of it comes from 2016's Ghostbusters.
The Chris Hemsworth.
Yes, because have you seen 2016's Ghostbusters?
I think you know I haven't, but go on.
Okay, so Chris Hemsworth in that plays Kevin, Ben.
Yes.
And he is an incredibly handsome, but dumb as a brick,
man,
but loyal and supportive man. He fills the Janine role in the 2016 reimagining of Ghostbusters. He's the receptionist. And I mean, interestingly enough, I don't know if Janine was in Ghostbusters as sex appeal, but Chris Hemsworth definitely is in Ghostbusters as sex appeal. And in that, Ben, he plays almost the definition of the crossing of the three Venn diagrams. Now, he is very funny. And I think that the himbo character that Thor ends up moving towards, I don't think that is Chris Hemsworth, but I think it's where Chris Hemsworth feels comfortable as a comedian. Okay. Because the 2016 Ghostbusters film, Ben, is not very good.
No.
It's not a very good film. And
from what I understand, I haven't seen it.
I've seen it, Ben. It's not very good. The main reason it's not very good is it is completely lacking focus. And it's completely lacking focus, Ben, because they essentially didn't have a script.
That helps.
They decided to try and improvise a comedy film. And when
Oh,
you
dear.
improvise a comedy film, you get some very funny moments, but you also get lots of padding and lots of weird things that go nowhere. And, you know, it's a risk. And they took the risk. They took their shot. It didn't pan out. It does have, though, one of Chris Hemsworth's best ever performances as a himbo, where he's playing it for laughs. He does one of the greatest jokes of all time, Ben. He says, "Can I bring my cat to work?" And they say,
Okay.
"Oh, well, we're allergic to cats." And he says, "Oh, he's not a cat?"
Oh, excellent.
Yeah. And they say, "What?" And he's a dog. "My cat is a dog." And they say, "What?" And he says, "Oh, Mike Hat." His dog's name, Ben, is Michael Hat. And but apparently Chris Hemsworth completely improv that, which is
Oh, good.
a spectacular bit of work. Anyway, yes, so that's where I think that's how it went the Thor route. I don't know if it was necessarily Taika Waititi so much as it's Chris
Okay.
Hemsworth. If you let Chris Hemsworth loose, that's the character he'll play. If you ask Chris Hemsworth to improvise, he
defaults to Himbo.
He defaults to big dumb handsome guy.
Big dumb handsome guy. I like it. There are other examples that we've seen, Michael. More recently, Geralt from The Witcher is considered to be a himbo.
Is he?
Yeah. Now, isn't that interesting?
Yeah, but isn't he very, very capable and smart? Oh, you just
He's
get
very
tricked a couple of
capable
times.
and very well trained, but he's quite often at a loss when he has to have the intellectual conversations with various other people. And often he'll solve problems just as quickly as he can through brute force where possible. So he's kind of fallen into that. Like Jaskier is his compass. Do you know what I mean? His question this a little bit, kind
Ben.
of. Yeah.
To go back to earlier when we were talking about toxic results on young boys,
Yeah.
isn't though Thor from Thor 1 and 2, whereupon he's capable and intelligent, and what I'm really thinking about is his relationship with women,
Okay.
like his relationship with Sif,
Uh-huh.
as opposed to his relationship with Valkyrie.
Now, how do you mean? You're going to have to expand on that for me
So-
because my brain's not.
With Sif,
Uh-huh.
obviously, like he's the king of or he's the most powerful Asgardian. Like he's okay. You could say he has a certain privilege there in that he's the son of the king and he has all of these inherent superpowers.
Yes.
But his relationship with Sif seems to be one of warriors who work together and are equals and are a man and a woman.
Yes.
And they seem to have a mutual respect. And okay, she does love him a little bit and he doesn't love her, which is probably not a good look. But then you have Valkyrie, who is so far above Thor in terms of competence, knowledge, experience, everything.
Mm-hmm.
How would Valkyrie and Sif interact, I wonder?
Similarly, I think that's a completely different reading. I think that's classism.
Go on.
I think Valkyrie is competent through experience and hardship, whereas I think Sif enjoys an entitled position among the pantheon of Norse gods. And I think if you were to have those two interact, I'm sure Marvel might botch it a bit and go for an Avengers Endgame style
Where they're
women
both
working together
Where
montage.
they're both equally exactly as powerful and competent and
Yeah.
cool.
But I think if you were to make an interesting Winter Soldier and the Falcon style show out of it, I think what you could have is a very interesting look at working class versus elite. And you could have a mutual respect narrative build its way forward. I think Thor would end up being the butt of the joke
Absolutely,
within
yeah.
that series. Whereupon they would both be like, have you seen the way he does this? And they'd both laugh. And then possibly, Michael, just to get some candy in there, we'd have a scene where Thor took his shirt off and both women are speechless. Possibly, if I was to make that into a series.
But hasn't Valkyrie seen him repeatedly without a shirt and not been impressed?
That's because Valkyrie is played as a homosexual, Michael. I think it's
I thought she was
coded
played
queer coded.
bisexual.
Oh, is she bisexual?
I can't remember, Ben.
Perhaps there'll be a particular scene where Valkyrie finally sees the value then. of Thor and his
Chris Hemsworth
shirtlessness.
being a big thumbed up shirtless guy.
I mean, there are other examples of that, Michael. Joe Manganiello in anything.
Oh, yeah.
You know, he's big, dumb, and friendly. You know what I mean?
Except Deathstroke.
Except Deathstroke, but even then, a little bit of a himbo energy there. Let's face it, Michael. There are other tropes there, Michael, but we don't have time this week to have a look at them. We've run out of time.
Oh,
Ladies and gentlemen, why do you think the himbo has made a resurgence? Who's your favorite himbo in current pop culture? Why do you think they appeal so much to a modern audience? Do they, or are we talking out of our hat? Let us know.
I'm saying they don't, Ben. I don't like it.
Okay, you don't like it.
Yeah, no,
Michael.
they don't appeal to me.
That doesn't shock me.
Yeah, no, it doesn't appeal to me in the slightest.
They very much appeal to me, Michael. I think they're one of my favorite current tropes, actually. Anyway, let us know what you think. You can find us in a bunch of different places. We're on the interwebs at www.seomrabeag.com, SEOMORABEAG.com.
Means tiny room in Irish.
We can also find us on the Instagram, which is at @SeomraBeag, same spelling.
Same meaning.
Very, very good. Ladies and gentlemen, join us next week where we'll be taking a look at toxic tropes.
Oh, are we?
Yeah, we hinted at a little bit at the beginning of this very episode. We'll be taking a look at the tropes that really just ruin a story for you as soon as they introduce themselves. And you just
brilliant.
go,
Himbos.
no.
All right, okay.
I've got the ick. So I think we've just found one of Michael's top toxic tropes. And he'll be able to tell us a little bit more about why he doesn't like it so much next week.
All right then. What examples, Ben?
The Chosen One, for example.
Oh, right.
Or Born Sexy Yesterday, which is one of my pet peeves. Michael.
Okay, hold on. Are you saying that they're toxic in the modern sense of they're toxic culturally, or just things people don't like? Are you saying toxic in the same way as toxic masculinity, or toxic in the same way as, oh no, I just don't like this?
Well, I was going to look at things like fridging, which we've covered before, but in a lighter sense. I was going to focus on the negative tropes, I guess, that kind of spoil stories for us as a modern audience.
Okay, so not necessarily toxic in a social way.
Not necessarily, but I'm sure that'll come up as well, Michael.
Oh, very interesting.
Very interesting, Michael. That's it from us, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed this inaugural episode of Bloody Sure Look, Sure Listen.
It's not called Bloody Sure Look, Sure Listen. It's called
Bloody Sure Look, Sure Listen.
Sure Look, Sure Listen, Ben. I'll see you next week.